Good, then I think we can move on to, we don't have to keep Jonathan sitting here any longer. We can go on to Gifford School. And were you able to communicate with Joel on this letter?
Yes. This is the legal request on the letter regarding limited site plan. We had exchanged emails trying to jog memory as far as Meadowbrook and our ability to review landscape plans and send you the conditions of our 2010 as well as our most recent decision and
right. Yes, that's right. I had sent you that response back saying I needed more context.
What's the context?
Yeah, I was going to say this. Some context.
there's a big picture that gives you context.
Yeah. Come around.
Well, let me just, before you start, Jonathan, just, you're setting up to make a presentation, but
not much. I know this is totally informal.
I mean, we had our hearing on this back in December.
And I wasn't there, yeah.
Well, no, but for some reason, the decision didn't come to us until like what was a week or so ago. And so there was a 3-month gap, and I think Mike Vasicus might have been, all of a sudden it looks like here's the spring is coming, and all of a sudden a decision appears from the planning board. That wasn't us. I don't know why it took 3 months to get the draft decision in front of us, but when we spoke with Mike at the hearing, we said, look, if you're going to do anything else, you come back and show us what you're going to do. And we also said you moved a lot of dirt around in the initial work, and so you're getting very close to the cutoff that would kick you into needing a special permit under earth movement. So we're just, that's where we are. We're saying we need to see what it is you're planning to do, because he said he would do it. So all we're doing is asking to do that now that it's time, and also to let us know what additional material is going to be moved in connection with the irrigation system, which in December he told us he wasn't going to put in. He said he wasn't going to put one in, but apparently he is. So
yeah, it was both the irrigation, which the proposal put in with that ditch, which I guess slices and puts it in, and the plantings. After buying the property, they thought they were going to be going on a very tight budget for quite a while. But fortunately, a couple donors came up so they could put irrigation in and put planting in. Strictly a misunderstanding, but I wasn't there. He thought, and I thought, that you were looking for a final narrative to just establish a baseline to make sure, put in writing what was property would be used for, and that's what we did. I did on March 1st submission with the narrative. But the only things that remain to be done are the seeding, and I guess when they did the site, I assumed when they had a little bit of loam left to do that they brought it on, but they didn't. There's a little bit of loam right here that I couldn't see it, so I asked them where it was. When I drive by, that's from the site. So the only thing left to do is spread that little bit of loam. And I was looking at John Field's letter. Basically, it's ready for seeding now. John Field apparently went out there and looked at it. There's a letter in the Field's file, so that little bit of loam and seed it. But yeah, they're hoping they want to put the irrigation in first. And they submitted the planting plan, but it just, as I looked at limited site plan review, I didn't know how those, where you've passed on the grade, from what I understand, I may understand wrong, but the grade was set when they were in front of you in December, so the final thing is to seed it, to spread that little bit of stockpiled loam, which you can't even see in the picture. And he'd like to put the irrigation, and I think that's been run by John Field, whether that ditch witch, and you'll know better than I, constitutes moving soil. I don't think it does, because I've never seen it work, but apparently it slices it in. And then trees, we submitted the planting plan, but I guess the main question I had, do any of those fall under limited site plan approval?
Well, the earth movement certainly does. It falls under the earth movement bylaw, which was for which this was a specific target, not Gifford School, but this kind of institution was a specific target. It's not that we're not trying to beat up on Mike, but we just don't want to have a repeat of some of the other things that have happened in the past, where things got drastically changed with absolutely no oversight whatsoever. But we do want to make sure that we observe those regulations, so that somebody down the road can't say, well, you were in order for this guy, and now you're holding our feet to the fire. But the other thing is, with respect to the landscaping, what we were saying to Mike in December is, because he told us he was going to be landscaping, we just said, look, can you run it by us when when you know what you want to do? Because at that time he said he didn't know what he wanted to do, and let us know, and we can have some input from our landscape consultant. Right now, it frankly looks a little bare when you drive by there. I don't know if
We've got the planting plan. Well, two things. One, the record looks like, I thought the determination had already been made that it was less than 1,000 feet.
it was then.
Yeah.
The question is, the irrigation system, does it or does it not constitute additional earth movement? And if so, does it? There was only 139 cubic yards left.
Yeah.
It just nosed in under. So
Has John made that determination?
The method that is proposed, he said it's going to be very difficult to calculate, because when you put it in, a little bit of dirt sort of comes to the side, but how you quantify that, he felt that it would be negligible given the fact that there's 137 cubic yards of sort of wiggle room.
Those things with
yeah, it's actually, I have, but it's not that I want to
yeah.
make this a big issue, but it's just that I want to be sure that we have something on file that says that we paid attention to it. And the other thing that we talked to Mike about in December was the use of the field, because what he was saying in December was that the field was going to be used for casual play, no organized athletics, and that at some point in the future, they would probably be using the second driveway entrance for parking for larger events. And we said, this intersection is, if you drive down Route 20 in the morning and the afternoon and see the lineup of cars trying to get out of just that driveway in front of the school, the main driveway, you realize that this is pumping cars into the second driveway, which has up until now been a single-family house, is going to have an impact on the traffic flow. So we were saying, when that happens, if this gets to be a more intensive use than just casual play, if you're going to start bringing cars in and out of here, we need to look at a traffic study to see what the impacts are for doing that. Now, I don't know if he's planning to do that at this point or not, but at some point, if that happens, I just tell you, we're going to want to see that.
The main, and I tried to outline it, I spent some time talking to him, and he anticipates the 2 times he says even the field, even with irrigation, he said they do it, they've done it elsewhere, is graduation and their auction. And he thought you folks would like it, because you get the cars off Route 20, for most of them. Then he said, once in a while...
We might like it, we just like to look at it. It's not that it's a bad thing, but we want to assess the impacts of that kind of traffic change at a critical intersection in town. It's just close to the Summers Street and the Route 20 intersection, which is one of the highest traffic accident intersections in town. So That's all. It's not that we're trying to beat up on them. We just want to be able to do our job, which is to assess the impacts of these kinds of changes.
Well, what would you think about, I can understand traffic, although even that, surprisingly, your limited site plan approval says traffic on site. It says nothing about even looking at traffic off site. But I can understand the concern. But what do you think about, well, I think I think it's a good idea. Would like to avail himself of anyone who wants to input plantings. But I think, Joe, you've got that planting plan in the file. But he is talking about putting trees out here to screen it. He wants to screen. He never anticipated the back of this building would be seen, so he wants to screen the.
You can see it sticks out like a sore thumb.
Yeah, it's ugly.
It really is.
He wants to screen that and a little bit of screen right here, but the rest would remain pretty open. But no, that thing.
Is he open to consulting with our landscape consultant and come up with some ideas? And it seems to me that they're thinking similar to what we're thinking. And I would be, comfortable with Kim's input and Kim and Joe sort of making an administrative direction on it for the planting part.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what that means. What we said is that if, as, and when a landscape plan was developed, we would want to look at it as a board. That's what we said in December, and I think that we should do that.
Well, the next time that we can look at it is, our next meeting is some time from now, and planting season is upon us.
No, it isn't.
Isn't it?
No.
When
It's
do you
the
go
10th.
back?
I asked him the order. He thought the order was the in-ground irrigation, the trees, and then the last thing, you plant grass.
Yeah.
But I think the idea of talking to him is good, but is it something that the board should properly be controlling, I guess, for want of a better word, as I look at limited
All right,
site
here we
plan
have town council.
approval in the bylaw? It's got 5 very specific, but I think he would welcome input. He told what his budget is. He's only got so much to spend on trees. He wants to focus him on screening, and that's it, is screening. Here it is, right here. I don't think mine's 1 year removed, so it's around 72.
Yeah.
I just would like to add that John and I weren't of the opinion that it was a trigger for a new application, but it was trigger for review, as the board typically reviews things and has that condition that says we want to review, mainly partly for consistency with the decision. The board does have language that says it may require a new application, but that's really a threshold question.
No, we're not looking for a new application,
Right,
it's just a
no.
modification. But whenever there's a change from the decision, from what's presented in the initial decision, we ask for an amendment.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, the decision doesn't mean anything. So we're looking for an amendment here.
So there are really 2 questions. I mean, one is the question of, are you entitled to see the plan? And then the question that you're raising is, when you do, what are the criteria under which you examine it? And I think, from what I'm hearing, the planning board is less interested in the second question and more on the first question.
Well,
and
no,
that is,
we'd like to
should it
know
come
what the
back to-
landscape proposal is. I think we could have some positive feedback on that. So yeah, I mean, we're interested to know what the changes are.
And that, I'm sure he would welcome feedback on it. What he'd rather avoid is being told absolutely. And I don't think that on this type of thing, telling him where to put each plant, but he's got a limited budget and he wants to use it to screen. He knows you don't want to look at it
Well, you've been through planning board meetings where we talked about landscape plans. When's the last time we told people exactly where to plant every plant? We just don't, we might make a suggestion about moving one or two, or adding one here, or taking one away there, but we don't, we don't dictate where people plant plants.
Sure.
I mean, Jonathan, in this letter, you say that there's a planting plan attached
Yeah.
from Capizzi and Company.
Yeah.
It's not in with that. I mean, it's a 36 by 24 sheet of paper. I have it in the file, but I did not include it as an attachment
Why didn't
to
you
your
receive
packet.
it?
It came with
The
the
March 1st.
yeah.
If he doesn't want to come in and talk to us, why don't he just send you in as his agent? I'm serious.
No, he's willing to, for him right now, it's just a matter of timing. He had thought, and since I spoke with him, I thought that we were sending the narrative so you could augment your decision, but didn't realize that the decision wasn't going to go beyond, as the decision is now written, he can't see the property until he comes back and sees it.
But he has prepared a planting plan.
Yeah.
And so it's a matter of us being presented with that planting plan. And has Kim had a chance to look at that planting plan?
No, not yet.
It hasn't been actually officially submitted to us. Look,
Really?
part of the problem here is when the decision came out. And I don't know what happened there. I don't know why it took 3 months to get the decision in. But if we'd done this 2 months ago, I'm sure he wouldn't have the same concern.
He wouldn't, then we'd know that he wanted us to formally come back with anything else.
Yeah, I understand. I mean,
So
But-
what
but-
did- what
but
did happen?
This isn't a formal application. This is, I mean, this, we could have been reviewing this tonight. We can take a look at it on April 10th. The board has always viewed changes in a fashion that doesn't warrant a new hearing.
So did we
And
sign off on this? I'm trying to remember, did we ever get the full
Well-
Monty, like a month
So-
after they were in here or something like that? You know,
So-
we usually are pretty.
So
quick.
one of the things was that, we've had a lot of decisions, it took time to prepare the decision. Board approved it on March 18th, 19th.
Yeah.
So
That's when it was
the
signed.
original time we came before that he presented before the board was in December?
Yes, our last meeting in December.
That's a really long time.
So,
It's a really long lag time.
yeah.
Can understand why the man's upset.
Well, also, I mean, it's one of those things that even during the hearing, it was stated that all you have to do is present the material back to the board. It's more of a verification. So,
So don't we nag people if they don't present, send their stuff back in or make an appointment to come and see us or anything like that? I mean, don't we sort of get up
As far
their
as we
heels a
do,
little bit?
which that's what we regularly do sort of at the end of the meeting, showing here are some changes, or have them at least formally on the agenda to review it, but it's not an application. And John and I did not view that this would be a application for modification. This is just as we would treat any changes to a landscape plan, bringing in front of the board for them to approve.
it's not only the landscape plan. I mean, it's also whether the use is going to change from a casual playing field to something more intense that might trigger the traffic, some sort of a traffic requirement.
Right.
Now, that's not time sensitive. It doesn't matter to the automobiles whether they're riding around in April or
No, I
August.
can understand where you want him to come back more formally and flesh it out on what's going to happen with parking and traffic. Tried to lay it out in the narrative, but I think you'd rather have Michael in front of you as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's a 15-minute conversation, at least initially, but he seems to think that for some reason he's being singled out for something, which is not the case at all.
Some of his communications, he thought he was, he knows somewhat run afoul in the past, not intentionally, but he thought he was dotting all of the i's.
Actually, no.
And,
He has, Gifford has been, they've got a gold star. I mean, they've been the greatest at being open and communicative with the board. I remember, when the addition was built and every other time when they put temporary tents in the back of the building, every time they've been very, very responsive about anything they wanted to do, very forthcoming. This is actually odd. It's just totally
So he
different.
thought he had done everything right.
Or he was working with,
He
worked
was-
with Board of Health.
Right,
he
and
worked
he'd
with
done everything
John.
right as far as the planning board too, correct?
Well,
Except we
he's-
were waiting for this planning plan?
Well, yeah, if he had a
If
planning
he
plan,
had
he
one,
said he
yeah.
didn't know if he was gonna have one or not.
Didn't think he had some money.
So, now he has one, and all we said in December was, when you get one,
Yeah.
we wanna see it.
So he forgot about that, we forgot about that, who forgot
No,
about
he didn't
nagging
have
his
the
plan?
planning, I had told Joe.
Trying to find out where the
I was
claims
gonna
were
try to
pressed
get
here.
him a narrative
It's us.
to say, for permanent purposes, what the uses were, what the field wasn't gonna be used for, and that's what we've done, there's never, there's no bleachers, there's no lights, there's no formal field.
No, I know.
But
But the word
thing-
irrigation.
Yeah, but the thing that held it up was he wanted to, he found out he could get a planting plan, he had some money to put plants. So that's what held up the narrative, getting it to you, Joe, by, not till March 1st.
Well, can he come in and talk to us on the 10th of April?
Yes. I'll drag him in, one way or the other.
But did you say he delivered the planning plan on March 1st? or-
He got it to me probably a day or two before March 1st, yeah.
So that's a month ago. So,
So that's why we were taken by surprise when we got that on March 1st, that we got a decision that didn't
Oh, right.
reference anything in the narrative.
Because the decision was already in process, being finalized to be distributed to the board. So then, the fall, I asked Jonathan to put everything in writing. That letter came out March 22nd, which is what you have here, that then presented everything as far as what they're looking for, what are the elements.
In the March 22nd, I listed the three things that remain
but
to actively
between
do.
March 1st and now was a lot of time for Kim to review it. And so she could have been here to say, yeah, here it is, and, whether Jonathan presented it or Michael presented it, it would still be, here this stuff is. If there was a question about, earth disturbance, that could have been addressed now too. We've had that month, so.
Come in May 10th, can I bring him in May 10th?
Yeah. April 10th.
I'm sorry, no, not May.
Yeah,
April
April
10th?
10th.
You're gonna do them at the wedding,
No.
the,
And certainly Kim should look it over before then.
Yeah.
Do you want David Conway to look it over as well?
I don't
Well,
think.
No, I don't think
disturbance-
drainage.
It doesn't sound like it to me.
Well,
It depends, I mean, John Field thinks it's gonna be,
Actually, that's not a bad idea.
Very
Let's
good.
get an opinion from David Conway on what it's gonna take to put that irrigation system. That's a good idea.
It might,
Let's do that.
not necessarily that he has to be here, but just, let's just get a word from
That's a
him.
very good idea. I like that.
Okay, and then we can dispense with this.
There's a guy
April 10th.
that doesn't have any dog in the fight, so to speak, so.
The dogs,
Okay.
So, but unless I hear otherwise, we'll plan to come in on April 10th, and
Yep.
check with Joe on the time.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
It'll be after us on April, after me.
Yes.
I'm at 7:30, you're at 9. We're going to need some real time,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I know.
Maybe a joke on you.
What?
I quoted you in
why don't we,
something the Board of Appeals today.
why don't we do them sooner, because they'll be quicker and we go. All right,
Famous last words. I'm going to quote you, don't you?
I'll keep nudging the chair.
All right. The elbow shot.
Well, thanks for the warning, I'll sit down.
Just put Roy between you.
Okay.
Okay.
Hey,
good.
I'll finish on a good note for me, at least for me. I think the controls you put on the convenience store on 128 are working out very well, although I don't like not being able to take a left anymore. It seems to be working very well.
Yeah, it is. I've noticed the same thing. Actually, it works better than it did before the Dunkin' Donuts came in.
And it looks good.
Yeah.
It looks good.
Doesn't look at that too much.
Will you be willing to put that in writing and distribute it widely?
Anywhere, not.
So real
I
accomplishment.
think the control is very appropriate.
Yeah.
And much as I love to take the left turn, I think it's good.
Yeah.
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 Somebody can do
And I'll see you on Sunday.
You might.
We
8 o'clock in the morning, what's the matter with you guys?
Is that why we might? Because you may stay in bed?
I might say that.
Alrighty then.
I'll see you.
Gifford School, that
Yeah,
was
you
done.
probably will.
Self-have.
Why are you guys doing it?
I just
I
wanted
think
you
that's
guys
when they give
to
us the deal. I don't know.
hear this. So this was,
It's terrible.
See, I like to play early, because I got the rest of the day, and I'm so tired after
that
the
was
game, I
across
take
from
it
the
12.
horse.
Yeah.
I can't get it done.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that place.
So I like it.
Remember,
But I didn't
when
choose it.
we looked at that, there was a ranch.
I thought it was a strategy.
that went over the,
We know you're not a morning person.
Oh, I'm a morning person, it's just, you know,
if you look at the house from the front.
yeah,
it's all-
I'm usually at my
We're gonna
desk
build
before
a new
8.
house
Yeah.
over the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a short trip for it, and even closer than your home game.
The wall.
Yeah. Is this
So they
at
were
the high
in the house
school?
all the way
Yeah,
back.
right on that turf
down that
field.
line.
Yeah, it was a
Yeah.
weird
Well,
configuration.
this is the ZBA that
Okay.
wrote it. And they said we have to live.
Are we
in
still
this
breaking?
setback. The real setback was. So that the
Yeah.
policy that was described
bells
to
on.
us, the zoning
The
board
wheel here is
policy
coming.
doesn't
Doesn't
exist.
I usually get pretty good shape at the beginning of the year. I had a bad cold, all kinds of excuses, but I'm gonna be happy.
So they
Not
kept
to
it.
mention a
They
year
said
older.
no. And they
Yeah,
thought
I'll be a
they
year
had
older
lived in the
too.
setback ones, which is exactly what we wanted.
Saturday.
Well, happy birthday.
Thank you.
Oh, wow.
Sorry.
We have to talk about that.
We're opposing changes. But that has nothing to do with any decisions we make.
What is this?
What are we looking at? Is this on the agenda?
This guy.
All right, good night, everyone else.
Good night, Joe.
Nice, thank you.
See ya.
Yeah.
So,
Joel, it's cruel and unusual that they keep me here this long.
Really?
Yeah. I don't deserve it.
We still have a forum.
Calling your bluff. All right, good night.
Good night.